The Niagara IceDogs are not your typical hockey team. On the surface, everything seems in order. They're an Eastern Conference team in the Ontario Hockey League, one of the most successful leagues for developing elite young hockey players. The team was fully embraced by the local community of St. Catharines, Ontario since the team's migration from Mississauga for the 2007-2008 season. They have generated top-tier NHL talent such as Alex Pietrangelo, Dougie Hamilton, and Jason Robertson. Even the Great One himself, Wayne Gretzky, is involved with the team, becoming a minority owner in 2022. But the squad has issues in more ways than one. They've struggled to make the playoffs, often finishing the regular season near the bottom of the standings. But their off-ice reputation is much worse. The IceDogs have faced a slew of scandals, investigations, suspensions, and a toxic culture that continues to infest the team. Any chance of becoming an imposing force and moving forward towards a championship seems further away with each year and each devastating new issue. What will it take to get the IceDogs back on course? Let's dive in. 2007. The team's move to St. Catharines was thanks in large part to owners Denise and Bill Burke. They took an interest in being involved in the Ontario Hockey League after their son Billy played for the Barrie Colts. They bought the IceDogs in 2007 before moving the team from Mississauga to St. Catharines, where Billy had attended private school. They poured investments into and around the community, equipping the IceDogs to hit the ground running, with Denise Burke even winning OHL Executive of the Year. They owned the team for nearly 15 years, twice making it all the way to the championship where they lost to the London Knights. But the early success didn't last. 2017. The Burke Empire found themselves under the spotlight in a bad way, along with every other executive in the OHL and Canadian hockey leagues across the country. Players brought forth a class action lawsuit asking that they be paid at least minimum wage during their playing career and demanding back pay for the affected players. The higher-ups argued that the league players are amateur sport athletes, not employees, and the leagues cannot afford to pay the minimum wage. Players could already receive free tuition for schooling, equipment, and a weekly stipend that varies depending on the team. The Burkes voiced their opinion as owners, highlighting that the money that they were bringing in barely covered expenses as is, and some years they lost money. Paying the players minimum wage, which was estimated to be about $300,000, would be catastrophic. Reports of the revenues from the IceDogs showed that, at least some of the time, this was true, they weren't making money. They had reported a net loss of around $100,000 in 2014. But after a move to a larger arena in St. Catharines, the team raked in over $600,000 in profit. The IceDogs might not be a lucrative powerhouse like a bigger city team, but were they always hurting as much as the Burkes claimed? The Burkes' stance on the financials led to heavy scrutiny, including Bill's decision to lease 4 BMWs, including one BMW that was worth around $120,000. The lawsuit went on for several years and eventually ended in a settlement, but this story marked an early point of tension with the fans and how they felt about the Burkes' ownership. 2019. Disclosing their allegedly tight finances would come back to haunt them in 2019 when a lawsuit by a former player came to light. Defenseman Zach Wilkie had been playing in the Greater Toronto Hockey League when several OHL teams, including the IceDogs, were looking to draft him. Zach met with many of the teams, but ended up agreeing to sign with the IceDogs on the promise that he would be given a full-ride scholarship to attend a university of his choice after his junior hockey career concluded. It was a common thing for teams to cover tuition for players that they drafted in the first round, but Zach was a later round pick, so the deal was unique. It was also never made in writing, as the team noted that they had already given out the full amount of scholarships that they were technically allowed to, so everything would need to be done off the books. Zach and his parents arrived for orientation day with the team, and they had a meeting with the Burkes where they discussed the scholarship to confirm the details. Both parties disagree about the content of this meeting. The Burkes claimed that they had only offered to have Zach's education inflation protected, so if there were rising costs down the road, they would pay the difference from what the cost was now. The Wilkies left the meeting under the impression that the full tuition for whatever program would be covered. Years later, when Zach looked to attend Laurentian University, he emailed Bill, looking to obtain the money for his $40,000 tuition. When Bill refused to pay and denied even having made the deal in the first place, Zach emailed OHL president David Branch. An official investigation into the alleged side deal was launched. Even with it never having been put in writing, the investigation found that the IceDogs had offered Zach to have his tuition covered and were trying to get out of the deal. Hopefully, his legal team got a nice payout for him. Testimony from a former coach led to the discovery that this was not the first time the IceDogs had done something like this. They offered $2,000 a year to get a player signed in 2016. This would have been around the time the Burks were making comments about their opposition to paying players minimum wage because apparently they couldn't afford it. At least they couldn't afford it for the players they didn't want to pay. As a result of the investigation, the IceDogs were found to be in clear violation of league rules. They were fined $250,000 and stripped of 2 upcoming draft picks. The fine was eventually lowered to $125,000, and it only ended up being 1 draft pick, but still, it was seen as a hard-hitting punishment that had to keep them on the right path going forward, right? 2022. The Burks were in hot water behind the scenes, but how were things behind the bench? Well, the owners had 2 sons, Joey and Billy Burke, who were the team's general manager and coach, respectively. Billy was the former OHL player and had coached the team since 2017, with both brothers also being minority owners. They saw the team through a series of disruptions that included cancelled playoffs and an entire season cancelled due to the pandemic. The IceDogs were in rough form during the 2021 to 2022 season, posting their worst season-to-season record ever and finding themselves out of the playoffs. Things were tough for Joey and Billy, but any amount of sympathy for their situation soured when the league suspended them. At first, no one really knew what they did, as the league suspended them due to inappropriate behavior regarding a WhatsApp group chat. It was not initially available to the public, but whatever it was enough that the league hit the IceDogs with yet another fine, $150,000, in addition to a 2-year suspension for Joey and Billy. And then, the chat leaked. The public got to see for themselves what all the fuss was about, and it was admittedly pretty bad. The brothers were going back and forth complaining about the OHL's lack of highlights for an IceDog game, using offensive language while targeting individual staff members they felt were responsible. While some found the chat deeply unprofessional and unsettling, the Burks came out with a joint statement addressing the matter. It didn't help them. They relayed feeling devastated by the league's decision to suspend them and defended their actions, noting that they were venting in a private group chat and that their language, though profane, was not racist or abusive as some people were saying. They wished the IceDogs the best while saying that they were proud of their involvement with the team and hoped to be back in 2 years to win a championship. Burks, though, would not return in any capacity. The scandal appeared to be the final straw for the 15-year Burke dynasty, as the team was sold in 2022 to Darren DeDoblier, with none other than Wayne Gretzky himself taking a minority stake in the team. It was meant to be a new start, to give them a fresh face and a new direction free of all the baggage from the previous ownership. Despite this, their struggles as a hockey team continued, and the problems off the ice, well, that only got worse. 2023. Another team-wide investigation was underway, this time focusing on the players. The league had been informed that certain IceDogs players had violated the code of conduct. After a thorough third-party investigation, the OHL made the announcement that 2 players on the team, goaltender Joshua Rosenzweig and team captain Landon Cato, were kicked out of the league entirely, not suspended for a certain amount of games, but banned from ever playing in the OHL again. In a statement from the league, it was determined that these players violated the Code of Conduct agreement regarding maltreatment, bullying, and harassment. Though details on the actual incident itself was sparse, it was noted that both players had engaged in serious violations. No criminal charges were brought forward. For the league to crack down on this is a good move. There's a problem with bullying and hazing in hockey culture, but it's also terrifying to consider what these young men must have done to warrant such a response. Perhaps there had been harm done to other teammates, and this is supported in part by the team's statements and those made by the league. Here's what the OHL had to say on the matter. The protection of players on and off the ice is the paramount concern of the OHL. Violations of the OHL Code of Conduct or the maltreatment policy, most importantly, put players' safety and experience at risk and impact the reputation of our teams, league, and the sport of hockey. In addition, the OHL suspended team owner and current GM Darren DeDoblier for 2 years due to violating the confidentiality during the ongoing investigation. His suspension lasted until June 2025, but he made it clear he would appeal. The rest of the staff and the team were left to pick up the pieces, support affected players, and deal with even more league sanctions as a result of the violations. The team was fined $100,000 and lost another top draft pick. The IceDogs had less money, players, prospects, and a path forward, and it was unclear what they were going to do. 2025. In March of 2025, the OHL announced that it had hired a Toronto law firm to conduct what it called a cultural review of the IceDogs. But this was not just a response to past issues, rather it was ongoing, as multiple complaints came through about the team's inappropriate behavior, particularly involving staff members. Unrelated to these issues, it was also rumored that Dedoblier, still suspended, continued to be involved in the team's activities, even setting lineups and making game day decisions, which he was not allowed to do. And rather than tone things down in the midst of the investigation, players found themselves embroiled in yet another issue that further spoke to the culture that the IceDogs were adopting. On March 25th, in the wake of this massive investigation into the team, players were seen creating quite a stir at a local movie theater in St. Catharines. The group arrived at a movie, dressed head to toe in IceDogs apparel. Rather than wear these colors with pride and dignity, they were noted as being disruptive, yelling, making obscene remarks, throwing food, and even hitting people in the face with it. The behavior got so bad that multiple people called in staff for the movie theater to have them removed. Even worse, it was their first playoff appearance in years, and now the team was going to be disciplined for their childlike behavior. During the first round of the playoffs against the Barrie Colts, each player on the Niagara roster was forced to sit for an entire period and not play. Basically, they were given a big timeout. Turns out that taking time to reflect on what they did not help their overall game. They went on to lose the series 4-1, squandering their first look at the playoffs in 6 years. The league may have been taking extreme measures to fix the team, but the community was just about done with them. Some cancelled season tickets and refused to watch a game as long as these issues persisted, and who could blame them? As a result of the review, sweeping changes were made. Darren Dedoblier was asked to step back from day-to-day operations of the IceDogs entirely. Additionally, all their coaching staff was removed from their roles. League staff and development coaches were brought in from all across the province to salvage what was left of the team that was barely scraping together wins. Eventually, a new GM was found in the form of Frank Avola. His most recent gigs involved scouting for the Oshawa Generals and being the director of hockey operations for the Windsor Spitfires. Windsor, for what it's worth, had become a powerhouse under his watch, winning 3 division titles in the last 4 years. But Avola is optimistic. He left behind his hometown to join an organization that has terrible issues, so he must see something good about it. He revamped the organization with his own coaching staff, but only time will tell if he has the persistence to revitalize this dying franchise. It's tough to even know where to start, but acknowledging the deep-seated problems is something that at least he's trying to do. So what do you think of the IceDogs controversy? Is there a path forward to redemption? Will this new coaching staff change the atmosphere there? Or should the team be stripped down and sold to another city for parts? Let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening.